Hello and welcome, one and all. Hopefully, this is all going to work fine. Hi, I am Andy from Twisted Narrative, and this is our very first in a series of how to sort of use Fantasy Grounds Unity, um, mainly for GMs initially. We'll move on to players at another point. And how to set things up. I've been using Fantasy Grounds Unity now for good 3.5, 4 years. Really enjoy it as a way of sharing my games as a virtual tabletop with my players, but also as a utility for creating and writing as well. So this is what you would see when you open up a brand new campaign. Um, Fundamentally, the screen, campaign setup, so you can click on user guides and forums. Let us move to this. You can tick show on load here. You can click user guides and forums should you wish to. I tend to go through that. So the very first thing that you really will need to do is you need to move across to what I'm going to refer to as the right side of your virtual tabletop, which is this area here. And the very first thing is click on library. This drop down menu here gives you modules and assets. My first stage is to go to modules. As you can see, there are no modules loaded here. Even if you have purchased modules, you need to activate them. And this is for each new campaign that you set up. If you create multiple campaigns on Fantasy Grounds, it's a simple process. You go to this button here, activation, click on this, and this is all of the content that you've got for that particular rule set. You can use this bar down here for search. So we're doing 5th edition D&D, so player's hand, it's not going to like that, is it? Let's try and there you go, player's handbook. You need to be very specific. As I said, as I put players, it didn't have the apostrophe in. So we're going to load the 3 core books because that's all we're going to fundamentally need at the moment. I have very much more content for this. Monster Manual and No Prize to what is the third? Dungeon Master's Guide. And you can see here as well that in Fantasy Grounds they split it up. So you've got player content, you've got the maps, and then you've got the core content. Depends very much what you need. At the moment, I just need the DM's content. If you're new to it and you are unsure, load everything up. It does depend very much on the strength of your computer. So modules done. We open this up now. You can see that we've got the core rules for Dungeon Master's Guide, Monster Manual, and Player's Handbook. You can sort of look at these. Reference manual will give you it as a reference manual, or you can literally jump to NPCs or items or whatever. But you can also access this information now through these tabs here as well. So the next thing I think is sensible is to talk you through this right side of the virtual tabletop. This is how you access all of the information. The top ones are very much buttons that you would use in play rather than in creating. I'll run through what they are, but they're not necessary for creating scenarios and such. So this is a combat tracker. There's nothing here yet because we haven't loaded up any players into it, but this is where you can literally track any combat that is happening. This is the party sheet. So you can have all of your characters in here. You can have a look at all of their abilities, hit dice, a single glance. And some of these also have these tabs here. So you can move down to inventory. You can drag items that the party might discover here. There is a marching order. You can drop the PCs to add party members here and move them to sort of formation and everything else. And this, if you do experience awards for encounters and quests, where you would reward them with that if you're not doing milestones. This is an interesting one. It's a calendar for all the different modules, so you can have an in-game calendar and track the passage of time. Dice. The dice down here are the ones that you roll. You can change the colours of them, should you wish to, with this little device here. However you really sort of want. There are some dice that you can purchase as well. Then we have the effects button, where you can force critical, max, and half damages. You can also have cover, superior cover, and opportunities presets as well. Then effects, lighting effects for line of sight and the like that you can put onto the tokens, and all of the conditions in D&D that you might need as well. Some of these you don't have to manually put on, but very much like a pen and paper tabletop system, you can override things and put them onto characters as well if need be. And then last but not least, a whole string of options. This is kind of necessary for you to have a look through before you literally start running the game, but not necessarily needed when you're creating the scenario. Lots and lots of options. Some people like the map to be auto-centered when it ticks down the combat tracker, and it will move to center on that character or NPC. Whether you want NPCs initiative roles to be as a group or as individual, to show your roles or not show your roles. There's a huge string of different choices that you can need. Not necessarily needing to have a look at those directly at the moment, as we're looking at sort of how to get going creating a scenario on here. So those are the tools. You can get rid of the tools, click them down with these buttons here. The library modules we've just covered. Assets, this is all of the information that you have for this campaign. Images, portraits, tokens. We'll come on how to use this in a little while, if not in this video, in another one. But this is where you store all of the assets for the game, if they are images, tokens, or portraits. It's not intuitive as such to load them in. Excuse me. Apologies. But it's very easy to do once you know how to do it, and I will cover that on another video. So we get rid of that. Then we move down to player. This is two very useful things for players to have. This is all of the characters that will be stored in this campaign. Here is your character wizard that you can create characters, and you can create a character, and then they can be pre-gen characters in effect, so that when somebody joins your game, if they haven't got a character, you can assign them to that character. So that's useful. Players obviously can also create their own characters as well. And then there's notes. This is a nice little function for players. Players get access to this as well. All you really need to do here is sort of click on this green circle with the white cross in it, and it opens a note here, and we can basically do that and that. You title it, you can put your notes in there. And myself as a GM or a player, you can have your own player notes here, but you can choose to make it public, and that little P has turned up here, or not public. So you keep your own secret reserve of notes as a player or as a GM, and you can make them public as well. So it's a nice way for text handouts if you don't want to give them a particular image. And that's players. And then we move to campaign. This is the most important part for a GM, really. This is the content that you create and you use and you move around. I use the campaign section of Buttons substantially more than any other when running and creating a campaign. So the first thing that I would advise you to do is you can create your own groups. This is what this is here. If you click on this group at the moment, it's basically got from the Dungeon Master's Guide Sylvian Forest encounters, and all those encounters are encounters that are being pulled from the Dungeon Master's Guide and moved across to here. Beyond that, there are no other encounters at the moment. So what I like to do is I click on edit groups, and then I click on add category, and I do this for all these sections, or certainly the majority of them. What I tend to also do is I put it into brackets, so it shows towards the top. I put double A in just to kind of force it to come up to the top, and then I name either the scenario I'm going to create or the campaign itself. If it's a short-lived campaign, it's fine to do that, but if you're doing a lot of sort of story arcs throughout the campaign, this is where I would sort of split it all up. I'm working on a project at the moment, and one of the settlements is called Diggers Deep. So Diggers Deep is there, and then what you do is you go stop editing, and you see now that Diggers Deep has appeared up here. That means when we do here, there's no encounters at the moment, but this is where we can start putting the encounters for Diggers Deep. The same with images. You can see that it has pulled all of the artwork from all of the modules that we have loaded at the moment, but we can fairly rapidly go to edit groups again. If you put your cursor there, you probably know all about this, but if you press shift and the arrow button, you can highlight it, and then control and C will allow you to copy it. You can stop editing the groups, and then what we can do here is go to group 1, which is the new group that you've created, do Control V, and it will do that. And then we've created a group where we can store images for Diggers Deep as well. I like to create unique items, do home brewing, so we'll also do the same for items. There we go. And you can see now that we're creating this story arc, this setting area where we can instantly access the information that we're doing. Again, we love our NPCs, so we can do that. Takes you a few moments to do, but parcels are the treasure parcels, the packages of rewards, the treasure that the players will find. So we will do that as well. Same with quests. You can track quests here, you can create quests, and it also allows you to reward experience for completing quests. Story is one of the more important sections here, where you would list basically all the encounters within Diggers Deep. So it's fairly critical to have a section here as well. You can see all of these are blanked out at the moment. That's because we haven't loaded any of the other sort of modules. We've kept it sort of fairly pure. Tables are all sorts of the tables that you would find in the rule books. We might want to create our own sort of bespoke tables. So Diggers Deep, and then last but not least, this is a relatively new button that has been created, and it covers all sorts of vehicles. Who knows? We might need it. Doesn't cause any harm. Now, I believe that if you don't put an item in these, then you might lose this category if you log out and log back in again. So it's fairly important. What you can do now, though, is you can close all of these down. Boom, 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 boom. It does save everything, which is really good. So if we go to encounters, you can see that encounters got Digger Deep. We can look there. So that's your campaign. Encounters, literally the encounters that you do, not the information about encounters, but the NPCs that are in that encounter that you can put onto a battle map. Images, pretty much what it says, how to share images. Items, all the items from magic items to mundane items. NPCs, all of the monsters and non-playing characters. Parcels are the collection of treasures, quests, the quests that you would give them. Story, this is the pertinent information for the scenario that you're doing. Tables, pretty much what it says, random tables, whether you want to create a random encounter table, a random treasure table, a random trinket table, and vehicles. Well, vehicles. We'll come back to that in a minute. Then we come to characters. Now, character is all of the rules that are contained in the modules that you have loaded. So, for instance, classes. If we click here, we can open these windows up. This is all of the core classes for the Player's Handbook and the Dungeon Master's Guide. If you look down here, you can see the names. If you look down here, you can see the source that they've come from. What is very interesting with Fantasy Grounds is it has these buttons here. These, I call them shield icons because they look like shields to me. I think they are meant to be, but it's a brown circle with a sort of silver or gunmetal dot in the middle. And wherever you see any of these, you can use it to do a number of things, but primarily if you click on it, it will open up information about the thing that you've clicked on. So all of the information from the Player's Handbook about druids here, you've got it all down, but you see that it's also got additional information with these buttons. So the prime example is here. So druid, if you click on here, it is the image from the Player's Handbook of the druid. The other thing that you can do, because accessing information is important, but also keeping your virtual tabletop relatively clear, not letting information build up all over the place. And within Fantasy Grounds, there's a simple way of doing that, and that is, if you look at the bottom of the screen here, it is these hotbars. You can drag any of these brown buttons down to a hotbar and it will save it there. Pretty much what a hotbar does. You can then click on it and it will open it up. Click on it and open it up. If you want to get rid of it, you can right click and go to clear slot and it clears it. But there are multiple hotbars. There's the ones you can see on the main. If you press Shift, you've got all your Shift ones. If you press Control, you've got all of your Control ones. If you press Alt, you've got all of your Alt ones. But they also goes for Shift and Alt, Control and Alt, and Control and Shift as well. So I mean, there's far more hotbars than you could ever want. But it's a really good way of storing information to quickly access it should you need to. And that's fundamentally what all of these do. It's all the it's all of the in-game information for the system that you are running, with the way of accessing information very rapidly. You can also drag this information across to your character sheet as well. So if, for instance, there was a character sheet, and you're playing a mage and you want the alter self, you can drag that across by left pressing and dragging, dropping it onto your character sheet, and it will add that spell to your character sheet. So it's a very easy way of transferring information from one location to another. So that is a very quick overview of what the right hand side of the virtual tabletop does. Loading up your modules, very important. If you don't load the modules up, you don't have access to any of the information. And then to get yourself started, go into the campaign button and setting up all of these here. So you can do this. What I'm going to do now is create some little bits and pieces here, so that we've got some information in each of them before we bring this stream to a close. So how do we do encounters? Well, we go to the bottom here, green circle, and this creates a new encounter. I tend to label everything sort of A1, A2, A3, just so I can kind of have them in the order that I want them. We're going to make this a fairly simple encounter. Diggers Deep is this settlement. We haven't overly thought particularly much about it at the moment, but it is a mining community, and within that mining community, we will have some kind of threat. The first encounter as they come into the settlement of Diggers Deep will be some ne'er-do-wells, some rough and ready. Diggers Deep is suffering at the moment because the mines themselves have been closed. Let us have a look what is suitable. I think a bandit, if we can spell it properly. We look at this, and of course we can sort of click on this. Well, they are challenge rating an 8th, and we have an armor class of 12 and a hit point of 11. All of this information rapidly found by clicking that brown button. That is quite good. I'm quite looking like that, but we don't want to call them bandits, do we? And this is a great feature, once again, of Fantasy Grounds, because it's not quite appropriate. So if you just drag and drop bandit down there, you can see it's instantly created a copy of it. And then all we have to do here is open up the one that we want to edit. We can unlock it. We can move this, and we will say, let us say, I like the word vexed miner. So it's a miner that is unhappy with his lot at the moment as the mines have been closed. We'll have all the stats of a bandit, and what it's what the miner perhaps is upset about is everything that is going on. Him and a few of his friends have taken up to banditry. They're not professional bandits. They've only just started doing this. We can name this encounter as Vexed Miner. Um, you can if you can spell. And then all we need to do to create this encounter is sort of drag that across to there and drop it in. So if you click on this here to refresh it, it shows that a single one of these is a challenge rating 1/8 and is worth 25 experience points. We're assuming that we've got a party though, so let's have 3 of them. Let's raise that to a challenge rating of 1/2 now. We might change the name of Vexed Miners, but we will see. We can certainly lock that encounter, and you can see that this encounter now has been named here. We can close this down. When we go to our Digger Deep encounters, we can click on that and we can see Vexed Miners is there and save for us. If we close encounters down, we can come back to encounters and it's all nicely saved. Now, one of the reasons for changing this here is you see now that the Vexed Miner has disappeared. What we can do is go to our Diggers Deep. We can drag this button here and we've saved. We know it's a bandit, but for convenience sake, if we need any other Vexed Miners, we've now got it saved in our Diggers Deep set of information for NPCs. Images. What we really need to do is find an image that we can put in here. You click again, it's becoming repetitive, but we open this up and we can now see that we have created an area for a new image. Now you have all of this information here, which I will cover in another video of how you can edit the images. There's lots and lots of different options, especially if it is maps. But for brevity's sake of how do we create an image, if we go to library and assets, you see I mentioned earlier that we've got images here, and we've got all of these images here at the moment. So Baldur's Gate Defense into Avernus. Let us see if it has. It's got all of these images that is from the modules that we have saved. And I'm just going to quickly. I shouldn't really spend too much time, so we'll pop that image in here, and we will say this is far too big to be Diggers Deep. I don't think there's another sort of image that is appropriate. Boom, boom, boom. A lot of images. That's quite good, really. So what we can do here is let us go for a smaller image. So we can delete that image, create another image, and we can go, well, we quite like the look of Little Calasham. Little Calasham we can use as a bit of a layout for Diggers Deep. It's kind of a small walled area and whatever. So we can call this Diggers Deep for the moment until we get a more appropriate image. We lock it down and you can see now that that image has been saved here. So encounters, we've got our Vexed Miner images, we've got Diggers Deep image. Items, we want to create an item here, and there is a particular item that I need to homebrew. So I'm going to do this here. The item is called Fluke Enium, and it is raw. Flucinium is going to be a magical piece of rock that can bestow good luck or bad luck upon it. You can fill out all of the details here. I'm not going to quite do it yet, but I just wanted to create the item to A, show you how easy it is, and B, show you that we can stick it into Diggers Deep. You can also, if you wanted to, go to all. You could, for instance, go, well, they might find a miner's pick, um, and then what you can do is you go back to Diggers Deep, pop that in there as well. So you've now got flucinium, and miner's pick, because I might have got one of the miner's picks from one of the vexed miners. Um, then we've done NPCs. We've got a vexed miner. Parcels, fairly easy to do again. What we will do is we will we need to go to the tables, don't we? We need to go to the tables, and we need to go to all. This is the tables from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and particularly the treasure tables. So if we go down to the treasure, we can roll randomly. Individual treasure challenge rating 00 to 04 sounds particularly fine. And what we will do here, you have a choice of making it visible to the players or not. You have a choice of whether it goes into a parcel or chat, and we'll roll the dice. Look at the dice rolling here, and we've got 15 gold pieces, which is easily enough. And what we will do is we will rename this Vexed Miners. I mean, that's a nice little haul there. I'm not quite sure why they're upset. They've got 15 gold pieces between the three of them, which is a lot. So maybe they've done some banditry already. Maybe they've been paid off. And I kind of like to use, well, why have they got so much coin? Um, um, to help write the story. And that is definitely giving me quite a few sort of ideas there. But if we look in the parcel now, we'll see that we know they've got 15, and we can, as promised, if you go to your party sheet and you go to your inventory, all you would need to do is take this button, drop it on here, and you can see that it says put 15 gold pieces into the party sheet there. It doesn't delete this record, so this record is here. And I've called it Vex Minders because it is the one that correlates to that encounter there. So that is parcels. Quests, fairly easy to do. Again, green circle, white cross. The first quest would be perhaps uncover the mystery of Diggers Deep. Doesn't really have a CR, but if we're going to award some experience at first level, with 4 characters, an experience award like that, maybe 125 each. So that will be 600. Sorry, that will be for 500 experience points split across. So we have created that as well in our Diggers Deep thing. And then we go to the story. Again, this is the important one here. You will be doing an awful lot of writing in here. I use it to create all of my encounters. So encounter 1 is the Vexed Miners. I suppose miners like that. And then upon the outskirts, I guess. The characters are Okay, I'm not going into full details. This again is for another sort of video. I'm trying to keep these relatively short, but also try and give you a very strong overview of what each of these do. We can certainly expand upon that. And I mean, what you can do with the story is you can kind of go, you can click a few of them and then you can sort of label and see the way that they've come up as new stories now, sort of A2. I quite often do this because you can edit everything. A3, uh, A4, uh, A5. And you can make little notes as well, like we did, such as why do these miners have so much gold? Question mark. So that's more of a question for me as a GM to kind of resolve, but it begins to help the story writing process. Boom, boom, boom. So we can easily clear all of these down. And then last but not least, after stories, tables. I'm not going to create a table at the moment. It's a much bigger, but should you wish to, you've got these buttons down to import text, add table by size, add item, and edit list. And there is no need for me to create any vehicles at the moment. So I think that brings us an end to this morning's stream. Um, Hopefully, it's gave you an overview, if you are new to Fantasy Grounds, about how the virtual tabletop is laid out and what the buttons mean. We'll be looking at everything in much more greater detail and carrying on creating this story over the next number of parts of this series. So thank you very much, everybody. A big welcome to Willowcat here, who's decided to get into action right at the end. Let's face it, it is lunchtime. So a very big thank you to you. If you have found this useful, give us a like. If you haven't, please give us a subscribe. It really helps our metrics. Till next time, stay safe, look after yourselves, and be kind to each other. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.